Let's get a word on this story. James Flanders, Chief Consumer Reporter with The Sun, is with us. It is there, as you can see on your screen, on the Sun front page. Ka-ching is the headline, James. This is probably a little more complicated than just the headline. If you got an iffy loan, you're going to get 700 quid.
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated. So you might remember in August there was a big case in the Supreme Court.
Yes, I was going to raise that.
So that was on a separate issue with regards to car loans. So that was on an issue with regards to secret commissions. And that kind of got overturned and they took sides with the lenders.
Yeah.
And if that went through, the banks would have had to foot in.
So that's where garages were getting a few quid because they directed your finance deal with a certain company.
Essentially, yes.
Something on
that.
Yeah.
And that would have been huge if it went through, because analysts were saying that banks would have to fork out like 45 billion.
Wow.
So that would have been really bad for the economy. Sure. So, but separately, during that time prior to that, the FCA's been investigating DCAs, so Discretionary Commission Arrangements, which is basically a hidden type of commission that where your broker ups the interest rate on your loan without telling you to earn more commission.
So they up the interest rate on the loan you've got?
Yeah, without telling you, so that they earn more commission.
Right, gotcha.
So that's a big chunk of what the FCA was investigating.
Yeah.
And after the Supreme Court made that announcement, the FCA came out and they said, right, well, we still think people have been missold, so we're going to launch a redress scheme. Yeah. That was within 3 days. Now, what happened last night was they announced a consultation to set out the steps to establish this scheme.
Got it.
So we now know that about 14.6 million people will be eligible. Well, it's not people, it's agreements are eligible. Yeah. So it's still going to be millions of people. So if you've got two claims, for example, £700 a claim, it's 1,400 quid. Yeah. So to be eligible, you have to have basically signed an agreement that contained a DCA, so a discretionary commission agreement. That's the majority, it's about 11 million. And then there's a couple more cases where the FCA has said you'll also be entitled to compensation. So that includes where lenders were basically getting unfairly high commissions. So the FCA said that that's basically if the commission they earn was 35% or more of the total amount of credit and 10% or more than total amount borrowed.
Got it.
By the motorist. And then lastly, lenders had exclusivity deals with brokers so that they'd reduce options and for the motorist, meaning that they probably wouldn't get the best deal. So they're the three.
Yeah. And some of these major lenders, I don't want to underplay the figure of 8.2 billion quid, because it's a lot of money. But if you are Lloyds, Santander, and you get half a dozen of those boys in town, then they do have that money knocking around, and they have contingency plans for things like that. They also have insurance policies. Yeah,
and to be honest, I'm covering it tomorrow in the paper. The share prices today on the banks have done pretty well because it's a lot lower. The total amount that the FCA's come out with, 8.2 billion, is a lot lower than they forecast.
So people might have been holding back to invest in those companies, and now they're going, oh, actually, this is all right.
It's not that bad.
It's not going to break the bank, literally.
Yeah, so it's met them halfway. The key thing is, if you've not put in a claim, put in a claim now directly with your lender. Do not go to a claims management company or a law firm, because, as you said earlier, you will lose a massive chunk of that compensation.
Yeah. And this is, I say, only 700 quid. I mean, 700 quid's better than a slap in the chops. It might get you a cheap weekend in Benidorm, whatever. Yeah. But it's 700 quid. It's not 7,000 quid like previous claim situations have offered up.
No, not like PPI. But it's still big, This is a lot of people, and it's finally getting somewhere. So we'll know next year, basically. The consultation closes in November. We'll know in early 2026 when payments will begin. So basically, the FCA is saying, get in your claim now, because the sooner you get in the claim, the quicker you'll get compensation.
So these are finance deals since 2007, because I said to you before we came on air, and I feel somewhat of an injustice now, James, on this, that in about 1990, I did borrow, I think it was 150 quid from one of the banks mentioned to buy my little moped, as your little starter thing on two wheels. And I remember when I had to pay it, but I remember realising that I'd never really encountered interest at all before.
Yeah.
And I thought it was an injustice that the 150 quid was going to be like, I don't know, 175 or something.
Yeah.
And that felt harsh to me. It could be that I was missold. However, I'm absolutely scuppered.
Yeah.
Because it was before 2007.
Yeah. So that's just the strict time frame. I'm afraid it's between any deal agreed between April 2007 and November 2024.
Yeah.
That's partially to do with regulatory changes post 2024 and the introduction of an ombudsman and all of that. So, yeah.
It's as you say, 700 quid. A payout. There could be many people, of course, who've had multiple agreements. In fact, you know, people. It's always an interesting one to me how people buy. Do you buy one outright? Do you do it on finance? Do you do a loan? You know, do you part exchange, etc. Look, we buy cars in different ways, but it wouldn't be unusual that in 2007, since 2007, which is just shy of 20 years ago, someone could have half a dozen of these agreements.
Look, I work with people in the newsroom who have got 5 claims in.
Wow.
So I don't think that will be uncommon.
So you could end up, that might build it up a little bit if you're looking for a significant sum. But even 700 quid, you'll have to go, there's, all of these things involve paperwork. Now, if you get a parking ticket, it involves reams of paperwork, for God's sake. So there will be forms to fill out.
There's a template letter, basically, that the FCA has for free on its website. It's pretty easy, actually, to fill in. You fill it in all your details, and that's it. You send it off. And then what happens is when the redress scheme opens, the lender will then be in touch, and they will have to deal with it.
Right.
So actually, it's not as difficult as if the lenders were just instructed to pay compensation, because the FCA is introducing this industry-wide.
Yeah.
They're going to have to follow some pretty strict criteria.
But you're going to have to wait for another year anyway, right? Because it's not till late 2026, is that right?
That's what they're saying is when the first payments will arrive. So, yeah, I mean, it's about a year, but the quicker you get your claim in with your lender, the quicker your payment will come. That's it. Because if you don't claim, your lender only has to contact you within 6 months after the scheme opens. So it's just better to get it in now. Yeah. And no claims companies, as always.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Do you think you might be in the mix, James?
No. Thankfully not. Thankfully not. But yeah, I've been lucky this time.
But you have colleagues who definitely are, or, well, they're saying they are anyway. They'll find out the hard way or the easy way, one of the two, because you can't flunk this one. You're either, you were either missold or you weren't, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, simple as that.
Exactly.
Good to see you, James. Thank you very much indeed. That is James Flanders. He is Chief Consumer Reporter at The Sun. Thank you to him.